So good to see everyone. The thing about this practice that we talk about here every week, it's not flashy, it's not dramatic, it's not fireworks or whatever. It's actually pretty subtle and nuanced, which is why I guess a lot of people um, aren't drawn to it. But the Dharma reminds us that one of the most transformative capacities of the human heart is the ability to release. So I want to talk this morning about what I call the quiet power of release. And this is really an invitation to cultivate this quiet power to know how to release from problems. And it's, as I said, it's not dramatic, it's not forceful, it's subtle, it's gradual, it's patient, and it's continually accessible. And it asks nothing impossible of us, only that we learn how to meet our experiences without tightening around them. Okay, that's the critical message today, that we learn to meet our experiences without tightening around them. Because in our day-to-day lives, problems arise all the time, difficulties unfold, uncertainty is always present, but it's our relationship to those experiences that can change profoundly when we cultivate the art of release. And release begins with a recognition that clinging is always optional. We may not think that it is, but it is always optional. This clinging, it is something we have agency with. And this is a crucial insight because we set an intention to release from clinging and see it as this precious freedom that we don't often enough avail ourselves of. And when we practice it, freedom doesn't mean erasing challenges. That's not what it's about. It means relating to challenges with spaciousness and ease rather than pressure and tightening. Okay? It's when we loosen the grip of our grasping. Okay? This is so fundamental, but it can be subtle, and as I said, it's not real flashy. Grasping for solutions, grasping for control, grasping for certainty, grasping for relief from discomfort. Grasping is everywhere. But we discover with our practice that the mind is more capable of responding wisely. The freedom that enables us to turn attention to what has arisen, to what is arising, or to what may arise. And this way, our attention becomes more flexible. We don't lock it down. It becomes more sincere. It gains mobility. One of the great misunderstandings of Buddhist practice is that we seek the present moment and we remain fixed in the present moment. Not only is that not the case, it is impossible to do. It is a gross misunderstanding of the Buddhist teaching. Release does not mean forcing ourselves to be in the here and now in some rigid, lockdown way. Rigidity, even if it is aimed at something wholesome, is still rigidity. And rigidity is contrary to the freedom that we seek. When we turn the present moment into some ideal, some goal, something we must conform to, we just create a new form of pressure, a new box to put ourselves in, a new standard to uphold, another measure by which we judge ourselves. It's not about locking that down. If our meditation becomes this anxious exercise to stay in the moment, the very effort to do that undermines the natural clarity and peace we seek. If I'm just preoccupied, I got to stay in the moment, got to stay in the moment, there's no freedom in that. I'm locking myself down. At the same time, release is not being detached from the here and now. Detachment in this sense does not mean equanimity. It means dissociation. It means numbness. It means disconnection. When we move too far from our lived experience, when we dwell in fantasy, when we dwell in memory, when we ruminate, when we dwell in abstraction, that's where we're kind of drifting away from our practice. We lose contact then with the very ground where our freedom is cultivated. When we drift away from the present moment, we cannot observe the cause and effect of what's going on. We can't see clearly what is happening. We're preoccupied with this other stuff. And as a result, we can't respond with the care and kindness that we ask of ourselves. Now, this balanced approach, again, it is subtle. It's grounded in the present, and it supports calmness. It supports depth of experience. It supports insight. But being grounded is not the same as forcing ourselves to be locked down somewhere. Grounding is gentle. It is steady. It is subtle. Think of placing a stone, a heavy stone, on soft earth. It sinks gradually without effort, finding stability without strain. We're not pushing it into the soft ground. It's finding its own place. Because here's the trick. Even the present moment can become a prison. Another ideal, as I said, that we're constantly trying to live up to and failing at. And this is where we have to be really suspicious of the ego's need for control, even in our present moment and seeking the present moment. Everything we do, including seeking that awareness, is vulnerable if we don't stay mindful. And this is really one of the paradoxes, I think, of spiritual practice. Even wholesome teachings, when misunderstood or mistakenly absolutized, if you will, can become obstacles. Even wholesome teachings can become obstacles if we fix on them, if we set them as a goal, if we don't hold them lightly. The middle way that the Buddha constantly talked about here is not cling to the present, not abandon the present, but allow awareness to move fluidly in and out of the presence. Yes, presence is important, but it also critically includes the capacity to understand the past, anticipate the future without getting lost in either one, without drifting off into it. This practice doesn't mean we amputate memory, we amputate imagination, we don't plan. It asks us to use them skillfully, to reflect, to learn, to foresee wisely. And this is why we talk about here all the time the power of reflection. Reflection is an important and dramatic tool in the Dharma, but it is not the same as ruminating. It is not the same as worrying. It's not the same as that tape loop in our head. It is a conscious, gentle examination of our experience. What is arising for me now? Oh, bring some curiosity to that. A conscious, gentle examination of my experience. Now, all that said, reflection can be described in a couple of ways. First of all, looking at what has occurred or is occurring. I'm just going to look at it. I'm just going to drop in and say, what's happening right now? Secondly, I'm going to try to be mindful of how the past is influencing my response to this right now. What are my triggers? Where am I getting hooked? What is it in the past that's making this moment a potential source of suffering? And then thirdly, seeing it, whether it's harmful or wholesome, healthy or unhealthy, whether my state of mind and how it is influencing the present. Okay, that is bringing awareness. These three dimensions of reflection, they help us understand this dynamic, ever-changing nature of our inner world. Okay? And we're not doing this 24/7. We couldn't if we tried. We have other things we have to take care of. We have to walk the dog. We have to, sweep the pantry, whatever. But reflection at the end of the day is an act of kindness toward ourselves. It is a gift to ourselves, a recognition of this ever-changing nature, that we're not static beings. We're constantly unfolding. By looking at what has occurred, we begin to see patterns. We recognize our patterns. I recognize what sets me off. I recognize what brings me a sense of inner peace. I recognize where I get joy. I recognize where I get suffering. We all have these patterns. But normally, if we're on autopilot, we don't know that we're enacting our patterns. When we notice how the past constantly shapes our future, our present, we see the continuity of causes and conditions in our lives. When we see how the past shapes the present. By identifying, then we move to identifying whether this present mind state is wholesome or unwholesome? Is it causing me suffering? Is it causing you suffering if I'm in relationship with you? And here's where we gain the clarity to change direction, to sort of steer the ship a little bit differently. And this is the way that reflection becomes a bridge between the presence and the wisdom that we've gained from understanding some of the causes and conditions in our life. Wisdom is seeing with clarity what got me here. Okay. It is a form of mindfulness that stretches across time. It broadens the present rather than narrowing it. It creates that spaciousness we talk about so much. Oh, I understand why I'm doing this. Of course I do this, but I don't want to keep doing it. This kind, it reveals this inner architecture of our habits and reactions. It's the kind of reflection that is essential for release because we can't release what we don't understand. We can't release what we don't have awareness of. We are gifted with the freedom to explore what was, what is, what will be, or what might be. It's a deeply practical freedom. It opens up a vast array of choices, the freedom to learn from past experiences, to meet current experience fully, to consider the future with clarity rather than anxiety and all the what ifs. In ordinary life, these three capacities, learning, meeting, anticipating, we need them to get by in the world and to flourish, that we talked about recently. When we are raising children, when we're engaging in relationships, when we're managing work responsibilities, when we're caring for our health, we want to rely on these three capacities of learning, meeting them, and anticipating them. Buddhist practice supports this natural intelligence. It does not suppress it. We make room for reflection, and when we do that, new things emerge and become possible. In this reflective space, renewal can arise through inspiration, through insight, and through fresh understanding. It is a natural flowering of the mind that is no longer constricted by clinging. We cling so much we don't even realize we're doing it. We cling to how we want things to be. We cling to, whatever is going on right now, or thinking this is who I am. But when problems arise and we're still clinging, we collapse into them. We wrestle with them compulsively. We don't allow room for creative solutions. When we face confusion, instead of just rushing into reactivity, we step back, we wait for clarity to unfold. When we experience pain, instead of resisting it and running from it, we meet it with compassion, we meet it with curiosity. And renewal in these moments arises not because we force it, but because we have created the conditions for insight and awareness. Now, this is not theoretical. This is not some esoteric notion of Buddhism. It is deeply practical because in the midst of daily conflicts, that moment of release, that pause, that noticing can change everything, including our suffering, including how we interact with each other. If I'm in conversation with someone and it becomes tense, this release may allow me to step back. It may allow me to see your perspective. It may turn the temperature down in the room. Similarly, when fear arises, it creates enough space for me to look at it with courage, not run from it, not suppress it, not deny it. Or when sadness emerges, it allows this release, this pause that I'm talking about, this tender release, allows some tenderness toward ourselves to accompany our sadness. It's this quiet power of release that is available in all of these moments. Not some dramatic breakthrough with fireworks going off, but a steady, reliable inner resource. As I said at the beginning, this is not a flashy practice. It is subtle, it is nuanced, which is why awareness and reflection are so critical. We live in a world where speed and pressure and reactivity are common. This ability to step back and release, to let go, is a form of protection against all that noxious stuff that's coming at us. Release shields us from unnecessary suffering. It gives us a moment to breathe, to take that break, to respond instead of react. And most importantly, I believe, it reminds us that our inner life is not determined by external events, but how we meet external events. Most importantly, it reminds us that our life is not at the mercy of external events, but how we meet those external events. And here again, as I say often, I don't mean indifference. I don't mean checking out. It does not mean pretending that problems don't matter. It means resting in a wider, more spacious awareness that can hold this complexity of our lives and not be overwhelmed. This is the heart of our Buddhist practice. We cultivate a mind that is spacious enough to include everything: joy, sorrow, clarity, confusion, past and future, without losing our balance. All of the 10,000 joys, all of the 10,000 sorrows that the Taoists remind us about. We ask ourselves to see release, this notion of release, as something gentle, accessible, and grounded. And we understand that it is not an escape, it is an opening, it is a doorway. And then we begin to see its transformative power. And the good news here is, even though it's subtle, that over time, this quiet power of release is our steady companion. It's trustworthy, it's liberating. And with it, our freedom is renewed again and again, moment to moment, day to day. So those are some thoughts about the quiet power of release.